Take the overwhelmed brain once a day for your empowerment and personal evolution. Are you annoyed by affirmations? Are you even more annoyed by that person who says,
"Think positively, and all your problems will disappear"?
Hi, Peter. What about when I don't get the raise I need at work? I'm already living paycheck to paycheck.
Think positively. It will eventually come.
Hi, my mom is having trouble with her...
Think positively. She'll be fine.
I found out I have this condition.
Think positively.
My wife doesn't like when
Think positively.
I spent all my money on
Think
this.
positively.
My house burned down.
Think positively.
I get migraines every day.
Think positively. There's so much healing going on today. Who's ready for lesson 2? Thinking more positively.
Hey, if affirmations feel like lies and positive thinking feels like denial, then get ready to start creating the life you've always wanted now. Hello, this is Paul Coliani, your personal empowerment coach and host of The Overwhelmed Brain, the personal growth show for the critical thinker. On every episode, we'll talk about practical, down-to-earth steps to help you improve your mood and also keep you sane in this powerful journey we call life. I want to help you bridge the gap between your emotions and reason, causing you to discover why you do the things you do and what you can do to reach higher levels of happiness and lower levels of stress and overwhelm. If you're here to learn more common sense tips for improving your life, well, welcome, but you're in the wrong place. This is the direct path to uncommon sense, and that's why it's going to help you learn, heal, grow, and evolve. All right, let's take a moment to talk about self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is one of those things where you're going along fine, and then something happens to throw you off course. For example, when I was working on my first ebook, Clear the Path to Happiness, I had all these distractions come up. Like, hey, you want to speak at this conference on a tropical island? Or, hey, I've got this project coming up that'll make you a lot of money. Or other things that popped up that were really distractions. And my focus was on my ebook. And I decided that no matter what, I was going to say no to everything else and finish that ebook. It was my first one, and I really wanted to accomplish something. I really wanted to get that book out there. It was a lot of important information that I wanted the world to read. And also, it was my first dive into having any type of real product online. And it was going to be a big accomplishment for me. So things would come along and try to, for lack of a better word, sabotage my path. Try to stop me from completing this. I'm not saying that the universe was throwing these things at me to test me, although that's what it seemed. But I am saying that when you're on a path where you want to accomplish something, that you will get these challenges, these obstacles, and things that will try to throw you off course. And when that happens, you have a choice. And the choice comes up, and you evaluate that choice by referring to what you value most in the major areas of your life. For example, when I was working on my ebook, that was more of a career and personal achievement that had its own set of values. One of those values was achieving this no matter what. In fact, that value was so high on my list that when other things came along, I would evaluate what that thing was against my high-level value of achieving this no matter what, and nothing could beat it. So I was very clear on my values and how I would prioritize my time when it came to spreading my time over different projects. No matter what, I am going to achieve this. And I made that a top-level value. I made that so important to me that no matter what came along, I instilled in me that word, no. No, I will not speak at that conference. No, I will not help you with that project. No, as much as I want to make more money, I'm going to refuse that job you're offering me so I can finish this ebook. So I refused to give in to self-sabotage. So if you haven't downloaded my worksheet, I highly recommend that you do it. Yes, it costs $5, but it's only $5 and it's worth it. And if you can't afford $5 or don't want to buy it, you don't have to, because I'm going to talk about it right now. But if you want to take some time to yourself and do that, totally up to you. But here is the process in a nutshell so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about here. And you also have an idea of how you sabotage yourself and how obstacles will get in the way and stop you from achieving some of your goals and stop you from following a vision that you have. How it works is that when you are trying to achieve a certain task or goal or follow a certain vision, something comes along that tries to veer you off course. This happens almost all the time. Something always comes along to try to veer you off the course you're on. So what you do in your head is you evaluate what comes along and ask yourself, okay, this obstacle came along and is trying to take my time away from what I'm doing over here. So is this obstacle more important than what I value about what I'm doing over here? And for those who sabotage themselves a lot, the answer will almost always be yes. You give more importance to what comes along than what you're already working on. For whatever reason, you might say, yeah, but it's so important that if I don't do it, this will happen. And you make the this will happen more important than the I'm working on this other thing, if that makes sense. You start prioritizing things that will absolutely take your time away from the thing you're working on. But the hard part is noticing that in the moment. Well, that's item 1 of the hard part. Item 2 of the hard part is actually keeping your original commitment. Because once you're on a path to complete something, to achieve something, when you commit no matter what, you'll make it happen. Even if you have to veer off course, you're always pointing in that same direction of your bigger vision to achieve what you started, because it's that important to you. Where we end up sabotaging ourselves, though, where that happens is that you have something that's even more important in your list of values that you don't even realize is there. You don't even know it's there. For example, when I was creating my first ebook, I received an offer to speak on a tropical island to teach them some personal growth and development stuff. I was honored, and I immediately wanted to say, yes, that sounds great. I've never had this kind of offer before. But I took the time to evaluate what I was doing now, creating this ebook, and how doing this other thing will veer me off the course of creating that ebook. I evaluated my commitment that I made to myself against this other offer, this other opportunity that came along. And as hard as it was to say no, I said no. I chose to keep my commitment to myself. I chose to honor my commitment to myself. This was a huge opportunity for me, and probably a good expansion opportunity for me to really put myself out there into the world. But I chose to keep my focus on this very small, not very profitable venture that I was on because I had never done it before. And it was very important to me to finish this, to complete this, to achieve this. Because I had been on so many different paths achieving nothing or very little. I would start along one path and wouldn't complete my process. I would go along another path and start doing things like creating a page on my website and not complete it. Or I would start on a worksheet and not finish that. I had all these unfinished projects that I kept getting diverted from because I would see the next shiny object and I would go for that. And so I had to stop and go, what am I doing? How is this happening? I keep sabotaging my forward momentum in all of these things that I'm doing, thinking that this next path or this other path will be better. So I did stop and I listed my values out to figure out what's most important to me about what I'm doing. For example, with the overwhelmed brain, what's most important to me about creating an ebook? What's most important to me about coaching? And I had to list these values out and realize what was driving me. Because values motivate you, values drive you, and they become the primary motivation for the decisions that you make in life in those certain areas. And once I found out what was driving me, I dug even further and made sure that there were no other values that were in there hiding. And what I mean by that is I found a value in there that said, it's so important not to put all your eggs in one basket. Now, that's a metaphor, of course. It just means it's so important not to keep your focus on one thing and spread your time and energy across many different things so that you don't end up with one poor thing over many mediocre things or many good things. For one reason or another, I picked up a value of it's more important to have open projects than to have completed a single project. I don't know where I learned that. I didn't really explore it, but once I found out that I had it, I changed it because I found out what was motivating me to do what I was doing. Every decision I made, I kept looking for the next shiny object or next low-hanging fruit or finding the next great tool online or talking to the next person who had better ideas and that could guide me and do something different than I'm doing now. I kept getting steered in different directions, which meant I kept sabotaging the direction I was in. But that was a hidden value, and if I hadn't done this process of finding what's most important to me in these different areas of life or different areas of my business, then I definitely would not have come to a place of complete focus to finish at least one thing. So the reason I'm talking about this today is I want to ask you, are you sabotaging your forward momentum in anything? Are you stopping your forward progress in anything? Does it feel like you're sabotaging yourself? If so, you may have some hidden value in there that you didn't realize you had. Now, my worksheet does walk you through how to get to those deeper level values, but I'm not here to push that. That's up to you if you want to get that or not. But I do want you to be aware that when something stops your forward momentum in any area of life, that you probably, most likely, have a value way down inside that is changing your direction. A good example of that is someone who wants to lose weight. They're like, I want to lose 10 pounds. And they do their best to eat right, but then somebody puts a cake in front of them and they eat the cake or something like that. There's a value in there that is higher in the list than the values that you have for losing weight. That value could be, it's more important that no one tells me what to do and I can do whatever I want. I mean, think about that. If you have something driving you that says, I can do whatever I want, and it's above a value that says, it's important to me to lose 10 pounds. If you can do whatever you want is above, it's important to me to lose 10 pounds, guess what wins? It always wins. The value that's higher always wins. But we don't think that's a value. We don't think that's important to us. So we don't even consider it as something that controls our life. Because what we want should be what we follow. But what happens is that we are driven by a deeper philosophy that we've been following for a long time, if not all of our lives. So how do you get out of this self-sabotage mode? How do you get beyond self-sabotage? Well, there's two ways to do it. Go to theoverwhelmedbrain.com and click on Deeper Learning, and you can purchase the worksheet. It's $5. Or if you have worked with your values before, just do this. List out everything that's important to you about what you're working on, for example. If you're working on your relationships, list out everything that's important to you about your relationships. Just list them all out. And then when you're done with the list, do it again. Find values that are even more important to you. And if you don't know what a value is, just ask yourself, what's important to me about being in a relationship? What's important to me about having a relationship? I must be respected. I must feel safe. I must have reciprocation. If I want them to be happy, I want them to want me to be happy. What's important to you about a relationship? Then once you're done listing all your values there, you list all your values again, and then you dig even deeper and find some more values. Once you're done, you're going to put all these values in the order that's most important to you. So when I was married and my wife did this, her number one value in a relationship was I must feel safe. And because when we were married, I hadn't healed from my judgment issues yet. So she was with a person that didn't make her feel safe. I made her feel unsafe because I would judge her. I would say things or give her that unsupportive look. So I was never meeting her highest value of feeling safe in a relationship, which was one of the main reasons that our relationship broke down and we got a divorce. And had I done these values with her earlier on in the relationship, then we could have talked about it and figured things out before they got where they got. But maybe not, because I still wasn't healed. So you never know. But at least at the time, I figured out that I would never meet that number one value as long as I wasn't healed for my stuff. And this is what happens when you list out your values and you put them in the order that they are most important. You find out what's really driving your decisions. Even, just unconsciously, what's driving your decisions is a list of values that you're following. What's driving your decisions are the things that are most important to you about the path you're on, about the project that you're working on, about your relationship, about your career. We carry these beliefs about what's most important to us throughout life, and we apply them to all these situations. And we don't even think about them. We don't think, I wonder what my values are here. We just don't think about it. It's just something that runs in the background and becomes a permanent etching in our life. They don't have to stay permanent, because once you discover what they are, you can slip in other values to come on top of that, or to usurp those current values if you're not in agreement with them. But what you're going to find is that your highest level values are typically the ones that you need most in your life. And that tells you what's driving you, and also tells you what's sabotaging you. I hope this made sense. If it doesn't, download the worksheet or send me an email. I'm happy to explain it even further. But I just wanted to say that because a lot of us have been on a path, and then we sabotage that path on the way to achieving something. And then we scratched our head and went, why? Why did I do that? Why did I do that to myself? Because there's something else under the layers inside your subconscious mind that is really driving your behavior. If you want to talk about that further, if you have something going on in your life, certainly go to theoverwhelmedbrain.com, download the worksheet, or reach out to me for coaching. Happy to help there. Let's go on to our next segment called Ask Paul. I want to tell you about something called Legal Shield. Legal Shield is sort of a legal insurance that you can always have available to you if you need personal or business legal advice, if you want an attorney to write a letter on your behalf, or even make that phone call that you really need to make, that you just know they're not going to listen to you, but I guarantee they'll listen to an attorney. For anywhere from $18 a month and up, you can have this legal insurance work for you so that you don't get stuck, you don't get in a bind or in an argument that you know you can't win unless you have someone on your side. I want you to contact Asha at getoutofthemess.com. Her number is 678-355-8777. She'll connect you with Legal Shield and help you determine if you need this service. Now, one thing I read that Legal Shield covers, which is really cool and very appropriate for this time of year, is that they will give you 1 hour of consultation, advice, or assistance for an IRS audit. That's pretty cool because we've just done our taxes, at least here in the U.S., and what's going to happen if we get, and wouldn't it be nice that if you have any fear of that you had someone on your side to help you out with that. So give Asha a call at 678-355-8777 if this is something that you're looking for, on top of all the other stuff that they do. Traffic violations, power of attorney, will preparation, and other advice and consultation. Just having that person available to you to represent you for such a minimal cost. It's worth it. Asha uses it. I use it. And I find myself using it for more things than I ever considered because I simply didn't have this option before. So it's nice to have someone on your side that wants to help you get out of the mess. Go to getoutofthemess.com or call Asha today. All right, this segment is called Ask Paul, and it's where I read a listener's email on the air and do my best to help them through a challenge. Here's today's email, and if we get to another one, that'll be great. If not, we'll just see how much time we have left. Dear Paul, I want to forgive someone who has wronged me, but I'm hung up on being heard. Let me say that I don't really want anything to do with having a conversation or a back and forth with this person. I want to move on and let go and forgive. Do you have any suggestions? I've listened to the podcast on forgiveness, but I'm still hung up on the being heard part. Or I think that's it. Thank you in advance for your time and help. Jody, I've given you the fake name of Jody. Thank you for your letter. And I want to ask, first of all, why do you want to forgive? I mean, I know we're told that we're supposed to forgive and move on, and that helps with our healing. But my first question is why? Why do you want to forgive? Do you want to have a relationship with this person? I mean, you said that you really don't want anything to do with having a conversation or a back and forth with them, so why do you want to forgive? Now, I have my reasons for forgiveness, and I have my own opinions on forgiveness, and if you heard that episode I have on forgiveness, then you know that my opinion is forgiveness is never about the other person. It's always about you. It's always about resolving some sort of negativity in yourself. So what is that negativity? What do you feel? You said that someone wronged you. That could mean a number of things, but when I try that on, if someone wronged me, I would make that check mark in my mind going, this person doesn't respect me because otherwise they wouldn't wrong me or betray me. So I have to come to a place in my mind where I'm going to keep them in my life or not. Of course, because it's going to depend on how angry or upset or afraid or whatever you're feeling. So the first question is yes. Why? Why do you have to forgive them? I don't believe that you have to forgive everyone. Some people have done some pretty nasty, disastrous things in our lives. When I think about forgiveness of anyone, I think about, okay, my stepfather. Okay, the stuff he did to my family and to me. He was an alcoholic. He did a lot of damage. He was very violent to certain members of my family, and he just did, quite frankly, some disgusting things. So I sit here going, do I forgive him? No. No, I don't forgive him. But I'm not mad about it. I just don't forgive him. What he did, it was, in my world, not forgivable. But I'm not going to be angry with him. I'm not going to always mention it when I'm around him. I've just marked him off as someone I don't want in my life. Now, if I was holding on to anger, then I want to look into forgiveness. But not forgiving him. Not for giving him a break. Not for giving him leeway. and especially not for giving him leverage. I don't want to give him any of those things. I'm happy with the relationship we have now, which is nil, which is nothing. I'm happy that he's not in my life. But I'm not upset. I'm not holding on to anger about him or what he did. I've let that go. But how did I do that? I forgave myself. And it sounds odd when I say that, and you've heard my episode on this, but I'm just going to mention it right now just in case someone else is listening that hasn't heard this. I forgave who I was at the time when he did the things he did. I forgave myself for not standing up when I wanted to stand up for myself. I forgive myself for not saying the things that I wanted to say to him. I forgive myself for not doing what I needed to do for me to get out of that situation. Now, of course, I was very young when I was growing up with him, but there was a point in time where I wasn't young anymore, and I could have behaved differently around him, and I could have done things for me, because he was atrocious and offensive in many ways. And he did many things that I don't agree with, so therefore I don't forgive him. But then I have to check inside. Okay, I don't forgive him, so how does that make me feel? Well, I'm still upset about certain things. I mean, this is in the past when I had to go through some healing about my stepfather. I still have certain things going on in there, so I need to address those things. Okay, he did this to me when I was 4. How do I feel about that? So, I have a process that I talk about, and it's sort of dealing with the inner child. I'm not fond of that term, but we all have this child inside of us that sometimes runs the show because this child developed beliefs and perspectives about the world when they were young. I have this child inside of me that sometimes reacts. It gets emotionally triggered by things because of how I learned to respond to the world when I was younger. And when those reactions come out of me, I have to go, whoa, is that really the perspective I have of the world today? Or is that something I carried forth from childhood? And I explore it, and there are ways to do that. But then I have to look at if there's any forgiveness that needs to occur. But I don't really look at it as forgiveness. I see forgiveness as more of unhealed pain. So it's not so much, in my opinion, it's not so much that you have to forgive someone else for what they did or didn't do, or what they said or didn't say. It's coming to a place of healing inside of you so that you can move on with or without them in your life. Now, one of the things that happens when someone wrongs you is that from that point forward, you don't feel safe with them. You don't trust them. There are certain things that you used to feel about them that you don't feel anymore because now they've revealed a part of them that you don't like or don't want in your life. So the question is mainly not about forgiveness, but it's more about, can you come to a new place with them in your life or not? In other words, can you accept them in your life for who they are today or not? Can they be a part of your life for who they are today, for who they are to you today? Can you have them in your life today? Or are they still this same deceptive or betraying person that they showed themselves to you to be at that time? Because here's the thing. People make mistakes. They do stupid things. I've done stupid things. You've done stupid things. And then you look back and go, damn, I wish I hadn't done that. They have regrets. Not everyone, but a lot of us have regrets. Like, I shouldn't have done that. I wish I hadn't done that. And, self-forgiveness is huge there, of course. But when it comes to other people, does this person regret wronging you or betraying you or whatever they did, doing whatever they did to hurt you in some way? And if they do regret it, have they repeated that behavior since? Is this the type of person they are? Or was this a one-time thing? Because the real challenge here is accepting them in your life as who they are today. Meaning, did they do that thing one time and never did it again? Or are they still this same person? And that's the real question. If they're still the same person, then you have enough data and enough facts where you can go, well, I'm just going to have to move on, or I'm going to keep them in my life and find a way to deal with it. But do you have to forgive them? In my opinion, you don't. But if you have any pain or hurt associated with what they did, then there is a process that you can do that doesn't involve them directly. It involves your mind. It involves you entering a space in your mind where you're safe. Go into that safe place in your mind, whether it's on a hammock at the beach or in a place where you're with your best friend or someone that you feel really safe with, and then introduce that person in your mind's eye and tell them what you want to tell them. Be angry with them, beat them up, and this is unusual, but kill them in your mind, hurt them in your mind. All of this is in your mind, not for real. Or do whatever comes to mind in your mind so that you can get what's in you out of you. Because your mind is going to help you reconcile some emotions or come to peace with things going on inside of you. Because this is all going on inside of you anyway. Someone can do the worst heinous act to you, but where you end up is with you and how you feel about that, how you feel about what they did. So you go in your mind and figure out, okay, how do I feel about this? I'm angry. All right, let me introduce this person in my mind's eye. I'm going to try it right now. Let me introduce my stepfather in my mind's eye. Oh, I can see him doing this awful thing. What do I want to do to him? I want to take a 2x4 and smash him over the head. This is not advice. This is not something I'm telling you to do for real. This is only in your imagination. It's unorthodox. I understand. It's unusual. You're probably told not to do this kind of stuff. But it's your own mind. Who cares? You can do anything you want in your own mind. So do it. Make it real in your mind. Because what this does is it releases the pressure valve. It lets you express yourself in a way that you may have resisted doing before. Now, you may have done this already. You may have had these thoughts or visualizations of you really doing some harm. And, that may have helped or may not have brought you anywhere. Which leads to step 2. Step 2 is to just talk with them in your mind. I know in your letter you said, I don't want to have a back and forth. I don't want to even discuss this with them. So you talk with them. Because what's going to happen is that you're going to say things that you really want to say to them in the safety of your own mind. And then you're going to discover what they say to you in your mind. Now you might think, well, it's not real. They're not going to really hear this in their mind. But it doesn't matter because it's how you respond to the world. It's your perspective of the world, and it's how you feel. So you can do all of this in your own mind because how you want to end up is feeling better about all this stuff. But it doesn't mean you're forgiving and letting them get away with anything. It just allows you to come to a space outside of the negativity. Because in our minds, we create these boundaries of negative feelings. We have this box that we put our memory in that are attached to our emotions. And these memories and emotions are all surrounding the same subject. So someone wronged us. Let me think of something in my past. My stepfather wronged me in some way. Okay, now I have a visualization. And I've healed from this, so it's a little harder for me to do this now. But at the time, before I healed from it, I had anger and fear and sadness. And I had all these things attached to this memory of when I was 4 years old, when he was abusing me. And I could think about how I had limitations on how I felt at the time. My limitations never went beyond fear and anger and sadness. Those were the boundaries of my feelings and my emotions. And I never felt anything else. I'm sure I felt some other negative emotions, but basically that's what I labeled that memory, as feeling hurt and angry and sad and the like. So I can ask myself, why was I feeling hurt? Well, because the person who was supposed to be taking care of me is abusing me. So what do I need to do? If I were to visualize what I need to do in my mind's eye and talk to this person, like, I can't believe you abused me. What is wrong with you? You are so selfish and you have no compassion for me. Why would you do such a thing? And then I would listen for his answer. And the answers sometimes surprise you. The answers that they give are sometimes surprising, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they just seem evil, or they just seem very selfish, or sometimes they seem to come from a place of hurt. My girlfriend says that those who abuse children have usually been abused themselves as children. Because otherwise, why would they be treating you that way? Where did they learn that? Where did they learn that that's how to get their needs met if they weren't abused in some way themselves? Not always, but most of the time. Abused adults were abused children. Now, that doesn't give them an excuse. It doesn't give them leverage. It helps us understand people. But as adults, we want to believe that we have the ability to make decisions that are right for us and right for other people too. So it's not like we're forgiving them leverage, forgiving them liberties to be this way. But what it does help us do is understand something that might be going on inside of them. Is it forgivable? Maybe, maybe not. But knowing that they're hurt in some way is certainly helpful to understand where they're coming from. Now, here they are making the choice to hurt you. They are making the adult choice to wrong you, to hurt you, to abuse you, to make you feel bad and to cause you harm in some way. And sometimes they make the wrong choice. So when you ask them questions or talk to them in your mind, you might be surprised to hear some of the answers. And you might not like some of the answers. But let me tell you what this does. And I'm going to go a little esoteric here. It changes your perception of the world. Think about the perception of the world that you had as a child and how you bring that perception of the world into your adult life and adult situations, your relationships, your jobs. Think about these beliefs that you carry from childhood and how you believe that when you were yelled at as a child, that getting yelled at as an adult is just as scary. It might not be a resourceful belief anymore. It might not even be an actual threat anymore. For example, someone yelling at you. But we believe that someone yelling at us as an adult is scary and dangerous because when we were kids, it was scary and dangerous. So just think about this. When you have a conversation in your mind with someone and they actually answer you in your mind, your perception and beliefs of the world change. They do because it's happening in your mind and you represent reality in your mind. Everything that comes into your senses and through your brain and gets processed in your mind and interpreted in your mind becomes your reality. This is how you perceive the world. So when you're in your mind and you're having conversations, your perception of the world is changing because perception is created in your mind. Does that make sense? This is important to know because this is where forgiveness happens too. Forgiveness isn't outside of you. It's inside. And when you can forgive inside your mind, you're not forgiving them. You are forgiving yourself an opportunity to perceive the world differently. You are forgiving yourself a path to healing from whatever hurts inside of you. So your question regarding, how do I forgive this person? I'm going to give you a resounding hell no. You don't have to forgive someone that wronged you. But you do have to come to a place inside of you that makes you feel better about what role they play in your life now. And all that means is when I think about, I'll give you my example, when I think about my stepfather, what role does he play in my life now? Well, he's still an alcoholic. He's still a liar. He's not a danger to me anymore. He doesn't make me fearful anymore. And he's certainly not a toxic influence in the family as much as he used to be, because now he's not in the family as much as he used to be. So where does he stand in my life? He doesn't. He's not in my life. I keep him out. And I talk about him all the time. So if you ever listened, you'd probably be like, wow, this is all about me. So I thank him for that. I thank him for all these lessons in my life. And when I think about forgiveness, I think about thanking someone. Now, this is another unusual play on it, and you may have heard this, though, from other people. When you thank them for showing them who they really are in your life, you can go, great, I dodged a bullet. Damn, that was close. I dodged a bullet, and now I know what to expect from this person. Unless they've healed for themselves, unless they've turned over a new leaf, unless they are not that person anymore. I have a friend that cheated on his wife many, many, many years ago. And he admitted it to her, and he felt awful. And ever since then, he has felt awful. He's never forgiven himself. And I think she has moved on and trusted him and, brought him back into the family, and he's become a better person. He has done a lot of becoming better out of probably fear, but he is a good person. And I know he's not going to cheat again because he felt so bad about doing it in the first place. He said, I was just so stupid. I was so stupid to ruin something that I really love having in my life. And he himself hasn't come to a place of acceptance of the person he is now. And that's so important, that you come to an acceptance of who they are now, good or bad, negative or positive, whatever you want to call it. If they are a good person now, that's who you look at. That's the person that you accept into your life or not. And it's your choice. Just because they're a good person doesn't mean you have to accept them in your life. You just have to come to a place in yourself that understands who they are today and thank them for revealing themselves as who they were at the time. And hopefully they've changed now. But if they haven't, then thank them again for continuing to be the way they are, so that you know who you can allow into your life or not. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that's family. Sometimes it's people that are very close to you, that live next door to you or live in the same house. And you have to come to a place of full acceptance of who they are, so that you have, I've talked about this before, so that you have data to work with. Because once you have solid information, then you can come to a decision in your mind whether you're going to have this person in your life or not. Now, what if this person is an ex and you share custody with your kids? They could still be terrible, but you can thank them. You can thank them for not being such a bad influence in your life anymore. It's possible they could be a bad influence in your kid's life, or maybe not. Maybe they're a good influence in your kid's life, but a bad influence in relationships, which of course makes them a bad role model, and that's a topic for another episode. But you do have to come to a place of acceptance. Whether you like it or not, they're going to be who they are. And they could be in a better place now and not do the same things they used to do, or not. Or maybe you haven't come to a place of trusting them quite yet. Maybe you're not sure. And you just have to make the decision. If you're not sure, this is my personal opinion, if I'm not sure about someone, I'm probably not going to have them in my life until I am sure. And it's okay not to have some people in your life. Just because they're family or close friends that you've known for many, many years, or a husband or a wife or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, just because you have already had commitments or ties with them, in many ways, doesn't mean they have to be in your life now. Because this is all about honoring yourself and what you need for you. So what I'd like you to do as my final suggestion or piece of advice, or however you look at it, is to go forward honoring yourself. If you really don't like this person or you're really having trouble forgiving them, then just honor yourself. I don't forgive this person. I'm going to move on. I'm ready to move on. But if they still anger you, then that needs to be addressed. That needs to be healed. And I've talked about how to do different ways to heal yourself through different episodes. And you can always reach out to me directly if you want to coach personally on this. I'm happy to help. But it is important that you come to a place of forgiveness in yourself so that you can move on, because this is really all about you. This is really all about how can I heal from the pain they caused me. Go inside your mind, take a visit, bring them in and listen to them, do things to them that you really want to do, and start the process of healing inside of you, because their presence, the impactfulness of their presence in your life is all defined in your mind. That doesn't mean it's all in your mind and you just have to change your thoughts. No, you do have to do some processes of healing through this. And I highly recommend that you do that. And if anything, even if you don't do any of these mind exercises, if anything, write a letter to that person. Because you've probably heard me say this before, writing slows down your thought processes, because we think at 1,000,000 miles a second. That's not an accurate number, but we think very fast to where thoughts just fly by, and then we make these sweeping generalizations about certain people or certain events or circumstances in our life. And we skip all the minute details just because we have this generalized thought. That guy's a jerk. Well, what does that mean? What makes him a jerk? What makes him a jerk? You just tell he's a jerk. And we write it out going, you know what? This is why I think you're a jerk. This is how you hurt me. This is what I blame on you. So on and so forth. You're writing that person a letter. You're not writing it like a journal. You're writing them a letter. And of course, the key is to not send that letter, but to reread it and make sure you still feel the same way. And change the wording if you need to. And then rewrite it if you want to. And notice if the healing starts as you write it. And if it's not starting, then you're going to have to dig in deeper and express how you really feel. Because if the healing's not begun when you write that letter, then you're probably not saying everything you really want to say. And that could get pretty deep. And there could be some tears shed. There could be some fists hitting a pillow. But sometimes this stuff needs to be done just to get it out of your system. Open that pressure release valve and let it go. I know you can do this. You're going to be great. Write to me if you have any more questions, or reach out for coaching and we'll work together. Let's take a break and I'll read the next email for part 2 of Ask Paul. All right, welcome back to part 2 of Ask Paul, where I'm going to read another email and help a listener through a challenge. But before I do that, I usually tell you about my coaching services. Yes, you can reach out to me for coaching directly. Go to theoverwhelmedbrain.com and click on Coach with Paul. You've heard me on the show, you know my style, and what you hear on the air is how I am with you in person. But I have an alternative to coaching that you can also consider, or in addition to coaching that you can consider, and that is when you become a TOB patron. And what that means is that you get incentives for joining a monthly membership for the site. Now, what does this mean? Am I going to have to spend money? Yes, the membership does cost money, but why? Does that mean you're not going to get this show for free anymore? No, quite the opposite. In fact, I'm going to continue doing this show for as long as I possibly can, going on almost 3 years now. And I'm going to continue going and giving you this stuff for free. But I've had requests where people want more TOB. And what does that mean? That That means that I'm going to come out with some private episodes of this show that you won't hear anywhere else unless you're a TOB patron. Oh my God, how much is this going to cost me? The private episodes are $3 a month. I know it's a huge investment, but it is worth it because I want to give you more, but I'm not going to do it for free. This will help keep this main show for free, and I want to continue doing that. So for those of you who aren't in a position to pay $3 a month, then just keep listening for free. Now, there are 4 levels of becoming a patron, and that is the typical things you hear, the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, for lack of better terms. I don't like those terms. It sounds like I'm selling some multi-level marketing system or something. It's not that. Until I come up with a better term, that's what I'm going to use. But they have different incentives for the different options. So, there's 2 reasons I'm telling you this. One, if you've been wanting to contribute to the show, here is a way to do it. Starting at $3 a month, all the way up to the platinum, which is $30 a month, which gives you live group coaching and a few other benefits, and all kinds of stuff in between, depending on what you're comfortable paying per month. I want to give you more. I want to incentivize you to not only join and contribute to the show, to keep it going. I mean, if this show has helped you, if I've helped you in some way, if this show has brought value into your life and has even changed your life, this is a good way to show your support. So not only are you showing your support, but I'm incentivizing you to show your support. Starting at $3 a month, you can get private episodes that you'll hear nowhere else. But besides that, depending on which option you choose, you'll get all the deeper learning worksheets that I've created and will continue to create. You'll have something that I don't offer anywhere except here, which is priority email support with a private direct email address that no one else has. And of course, the highest level, which is the group video chats with me and other guest coaches that I bring in. Really valuable stuff here, and all at a cost that is certainly within the realm of affordability. I know there's groups out there that cost $100 a month, $1,000 a month, and I'm like, I just can't do that. I can't do that. I want to be able to give this to as many people as possible, and also bring money back into the show to make it as great as possible for you. So I highly encourage you to go to theoverwhelmedbrain.com/member and click on a membership level that's right for you and start supporting the show today. I've got a lot more incentives down the line that I want to give to those who are already members. So I can't wait to see what this turns into and how I can bring more value into your life. Go to theoverwhelmedbrain.com and click on Become a TOB Patron, or just go directly to the site, theoverwhelmedbrain.com/member. I hope to see you inside the inner sanctum. Talk to you soon. All right, welcome back to part 2 of Ask Paul. Let's get right into it. Dear Paul, I have recently stumbled across your podcast when searching for stress and anxiety on iTunes. I developed an anxiety and a perception of life containing too many stressful events, which has culminated in panic attacks, generalized anxiety, strong physical symptoms, and just overall exhaustion. I do a pretty good job of keeping on top of my anxiety, but I can't overcome the final hurdle of ridding it from my life for good. It all started when I had a panic attack 3 years ago, at which time I was absolutely convinced I was dying of a heart attack. Whilst my conscious brain now accepts this as a panic attack, my subconscious still asks the question, "But are you sure?" Which of course keeps my anxiety alive. I've had dozens of similar episodes since then, which reinforce my fear. Your podcast on panic attacks was particularly relevant to me, especially the ultimate fear of death. However, I still struggle with this concept. I wondered whether you've done a podcast on health anxiety. and how to approach sensations that one believes are terminal diseases or events, and those lingering doubts about what if the doctor missed something, or why do I still get these symptoms when I'm not anxious? Keep up the good work. Okay, so this is a great question because I did have an episode called The Anxiety Episode When Panic Attacks. And yes, I played on the words. And this is a great question because anxiety is so prevalent today in the world. What do we get anxious about? We get anxious about so many things. I've told my anxiety panic attack story a million times on this show, but it all had to do with losing all my stuff. If I broke down in the desert with my car and I'm afraid that I'm going to lose all my stuff. Now what? I'm getting anxious. I'm getting panicky. Oh no, the idea that I'm going to lose all my stuff is getting worse, and I'm painting all these pictures in my head of what's going to happen if I do lose all my stuff. And then eventually I lost all my stuff and the anxiety and panic went away. Why is that? Well, because when what you fear happens, there's nothing else to fear. Now, that's easy to say, right? It's easy to say, well, that's nice, but I'm still fearing it. Well, my first response to anyone that lives in this kind of fear is to do that overly cliched quote that you hear, which is step into the fear. Now, there's some truth to this. There's a lot of truth to this. If you fear snakes, then go to a pet store and ask to hold a snake. And some of you are like, never. If you fear spiders, go someplace where they research spiders and study spiders, or look them up online and get used to them. If you fear talking on stage, then go to a Toastmasters meeting and get used to talking on stage. Because what this does is it starts to eliminate these little fears in your life. Like look for the little fears in your life first and address those. Those are a lot easier to kind of step into and walk into the fear. But that's not my advice to you. I'm not telling you that's what you need to do. But that in itself is something to consider. What am I afraid of? I'm anxious right now. Okay, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid that I'll get judged. I'm afraid that if I speak up right now in front of this crowd of people, everyone will look at me and judge me. And my thought is, let's find out what happens when they judge me. And I have this thought. I come on the air every week and tell you something about my life, knowing that the world is about to judge me. Everything I say. Somebody out there might be listening every week saying to themselves, he's wrong. He shouldn't be telling the world that. In fact, here's something I probably don't talk about. I don't think I've ever said this on the air. Some of the things that I talk about, my girlfriend says, you shouldn't tell people that. And it's hard to hear because I go, what? Why is what I'm saying a problem? Because if you say that, I don't want to be taken through the worst case scenario. I don't want to accept that I'm never going to heal from this stuff. I don't want to go to the places that you're trying to take me to. And I'll say, yeah, but listen to me. This is why I say it. And then maybe she doesn't want to listen, or maybe she will listen and will finally get to a place of, oh, okay, I understand why you say that, but I don't want to do that. And that's when I come up and say, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do anything I'm saying, because I'm open to being wrong about everything I say. Now, should I say that to you? Should you listen to someone who thinks that, yeah, what I tell you might be wrong? It's up to you. I want you to be empowered to listen to the people that you want to listen to and to take advice from people that you want to take advice from. All I can tell you is my own experience, what I've learned in life, what my clients have told me in their achievements and their results, and what I've seen work over and over and over again. So you can choose to believe me or not. You can choose to take action based on what I'm saying or not. And coming back to why I said all this is because I know that sometimes I'm going to say things on the air There's no taking this back. Once it's out in the world and everyone has had a chance to hear it, they can't unhear it. And I cannot say, oh, I got to delete what they heard, because they've already heard it. You've already heard everything I've had to say about all these subject matters, and it's out there forever. So what does that mean? That means I put myself on the line, and there's a reason I do this, and I'm going to share it with you right now. I just had this thought this morning. Let me give you an example. How can you get over your fear of being judged by people? I mean, what comes to mind? How can you get over your fear of being judged? Does anything come to mind? One of the first things that comes to my mind is do or say whatever I fear being judged in front of as many people as I possibly can. I know it might sound scary to think of that. What's going to happen after you do that? What's going to happen is that, yes, some people will judge. A lot of people won't. Some people will have opinions. Some people won't. But you're going to see every single variation of what might happen when you do this in front of the people that you don't want to do it in front of, or say things in front of people that you don't want to say things in front of. This is one of the reasons I come here week after week exposing my vulnerabilities. Because the more you expose out into the world, the more resilient you get, the less limitations you have, the more open and free you feel. This is what's called expanding who you are without fear of the consequences. I want you to think about that. How can you expand who you are, moving into a place of less and less fear of consequences? How can you do it? I chose to create a show not only to help heal others, but also to facilitate healing in myself. If you listen to some of my early episodes, there are some hard things that I had to talk about. Some hard things. And in one episode, I had to stop recording because I just broke down in tears. And I was like, whoa, there's still something I need to resolve in myself. Where did this come from? And once I resolved that, I was able to move on and start recording again. But I still told the story. I still said what really happened in my life, knowing that I could be judged, knowing that people might make fun of me. People might look down on me. People might be looking down on me right now going, my God, I can't believe this guy's giving this stupid advice. And that's okay, because they might be right. I'm not saying I might be wrong. I'm just saying that, yes, other people might be right about their judgments about me. So how is that a problem for me? It's not. Why would I take offense to something in their own thoughts? Why would I take offense to an opinion that they have? I don't. And if I did, then I need to resolve something in myself. Now, I know this information doesn't really help you too much, but it might. Because how do you find a crowd of people that you can just put yourself out there and see what happens? But why I said that is that the more people that you are able to express your vulnerabilities to, the more comfortable you feel being vulnerable. And that's what a lot of anxious people go through. They don't feel comfortable being vulnerable. Why? Because we have all of our emotions at that vulnerable core inside of us. But that's also where our strength lies. And when you're able to show people that emotional, vulnerable core, then more strength comes out of it. More confidence and self-esteem comes out of it. It's allowed. Because otherwise you shut the door both ways. If you shut the door on those emotions, then you also shut the door on your strength. So what do you do? What do you do about this generalized anxiety that you carry around with you? Well, have you heard me talk about addressing the emotion in the moment. I've told this story a few times before, but I'm going to tell you again real quick. I was in this group of people, this group of hypnotists when I was in that circle, that were introducing themselves. And for some reason, for many, many years, whenever I had to introduce myself to a group of people, I would get nervous. I would get anxious. I would start sweating and be like, oh my God, the people are introducing themselves and it's getting closer to my turn. Oh my God, why am I so nervous? And I never knew why I was so nervous. And the third person away from me would get called and they would introduce themselves. And they sounded confident and they sounded, fine, like they weren't nervous at all. And then the second person away from me would introduce themselves. And I'm getting more and more nervous. And I don't even know why it's happening. And then the first person, they get called. And I know, oh my God, what am I going to say? I don't know how to represent myself. And I'm sure there was some feelings of being judged or how am I going to look to these people? And finally, it was my turn to introduce myself. And my anxiety was at an all-time high. And for a moment, I realized what was happening. I realized that I was resisting the emotions I was feeling. I didn't want to feel these emotions that were happening in the moment. I didn't want those feelings. So what did I do? I resisted them. And resistance of those emotions caused my anxiety. Resistance of what I was truly feeling inside and not wanting to show the world what I was truly feeling inside caused my anxiety. So I don't know how I came up with this, quote, solution to how I was feeling, but I decided to express my emotion in the moment. What was happening in that moment? I was afraid. I was feeling fear. So that's what I did. I said exactly what was happening. I said, when I was watching that person introduce themselves, I started getting nervous. And then I watched that person introduce themselves and I got more nervous. And as it was getting closer and closer and closer to me, I just felt so nervous. I felt anxious. I don't know why I felt anxious. And this happens every time I'm in a group of people where I have to introduce myself. Now, mind you, this is the first time I've ever expressed this inside of me. So when it came to my turn, I was shaking and I was sweating, and this is how I felt. I just felt nervous, and I don't know why. And once I said how nervous I was and how much anxiety was building, once I expressed that verbally, I started feeling better almost immediately. And on top of that, someone cracked a joke, and he said, well, we are all hypnotists. We can probably help you with that anxiety. And the whole room laughed. And it made me laugh, and it really broke the tension. And I really believe that it broke the tension for some other people too, because I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. And I don't know why I felt that way. I never explored it, like the deep hidden meaning behind my anxiety. I just knew that after I expressed myself, I felt better, and my anxiety disappeared. Now, two things happened there. One, I expressed what was happening in the moment. I chose to be vulnerable, which is strength. I chose to express what was happening inside me at the moment, which is the secret formula to confidence. I'm telling you, this is powerful stuff. If you allow this to happen instead of resist it from happening and be honest about what's happening inside of you, this builds empowerment. This builds strength. This honors you. What better way to honor yourself than to allow what you resist to be? To allow what you're resisting to feel, because you don't want to feel anxious, you don't want to feel nervous, you don't want to feel fear, but then just expressing that fear, expressing that anxiety. God, I feel so anxious. I'm afraid. I don't know why I'm afraid, but I am. And then the person you're with, 99 out of 100 times, are going to support you, unless they're dysfunctional and they don't like you. If you're with people who don't like you, then you're with the wrong people. If you're with people who don't support you, then you're with the wrong people. I shouldn't say wrong people, because everyone has meaning in our lives, even if that meaning it's not something we want in our lives. But you're with people that don't support you, then you might as well be alone. You're better off alone. If you're not with people that support you, they're better off alone. But 99 out of 100 times, if not greater than that number, you're going to have people support you. This happens over and over and over again. And all you have to do is test it. Because when you go to your first, for example, Toastmasters meeting, which is where you practice speaking, do you realize how much support is in that room? And it's not because you're at a Toastmasters meeting. It's because most people are actually compassionate and feel the very same way you feel, or at least at one time felt the same way you feel. It's just that most of us don't express it in the moment, so we hold it in. And holding that in, that resistance to the emotions that we're feeling in the moment, is what causes, or at least one of the main causes, of our anxiety. Yes, you mentioned that there might be other health concerns there, and if you do have those concerns, seek a medical professional. I'm not saying not to, because you can do this in conjunction with everything else that you're practicing in life or working on in life. But getting to a point of being able to express yourself in the moment, even if it's scary, do it anyway. Because that first big leap makes all the other times you have to take a leap easier and easier as time goes on. And the first time I did that, the first time I spoke up when it was time to introduce myself, was a leap of faith for me because I didn't know how they were going to react. But I guarantee you, again, 99 out of 100 times, they're going to be supportive. You just have to take a big step into it and say, this is what's happening inside of me. I don't know why it's happening, but it's happening. And then you'll start feeling safer in a lot of situations. You'll start feeling more like yourself, and you can be yourself. And then you'll realize, wow, I don't get beat up when I'm vulnerable. I'm not saying it'll never happen, because there are some people that just don't have it in them to support you. And you'll find out who those people are, and you'll mark them off on your brain's checklist to go, this person doesn't support me. I can't feel safe around them, so I'm going to check them off, and now I know how to act in front of them. You will eventually get to a point where you have enough confidence and self-esteem where you can be yourself in front of those people. But while you're going through this process of getting to a better place inside yourself, you don't have to be around unsupportive people. So yes, this takes a leap of faith, but they're all still small steps. They're all small steps to building self-esteem, self-confidence, and especially rebuilding self-worth. Because when you feel worthy, you feel less anxiety. Because people can make fun of you when you feel worthy inside, and it doesn't affect you, or at least as much. Because you know what you're worth. You know that you are worthy. I believe that you're worthy. If you ever told anything to me, I'm not going to judge you for it. And there's a lot of people out there like me. Well, maybe not. But there's a lot of people out there that will support you, that won't judge you for expressing yourself in the moment. They're not there. And those that are, like I said, are probably not worth hanging around anyway. I hope this helps. If you have any further questions or you want to dive into this more, certainly reach out and we can do some one-on-one coaching. Otherwise, keep listening, and I wish you the best. Thank you so much for writing. Stick around, let's end the show, and I'll give you my final thoughts. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Overwhelmed Brain. I want to thank Asha with GetOutOfTheMess.com. She didn't make an appearance today, and she may not be here next week, but that's okay. She's got a life too. She can't always be here to record on my schedule, so sometimes I have to do it myself, which of course I'm happy to do. If you want to have access to an attorney anytime and want to stay out of the legal mess, and you're in the US or Canada, visit getoutofthemess.com or call 678-355-8777 and ask her if this service is right for you. I want to thank you if you've purchased one of my books or worksheets or used the Amazon link to shop as you normally would. It really helps out the show and keeps us going. And on top of that, if you want to get more TOB, remember what I said, become a TOB patron. Anywhere from $3 a month to $30 a month, you get different incentives at the different levels. And I just want to give you more. And this is a way that you can give to the show and I can give back even more to you. If you want more episodes that you won't hear anywhere else, if you want the worksheets, if you want more TOB in every way, visit theoverwhelmedbrain.com/member and become a TOB patron today. Thank you to Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com for some of the music transitions in The Overwhelmed Brain. Now, in closing, for those of you still listening, are you still listening? I want to talk about how you know when things are going right. How you know that you're going in the right direction, that you've made the right choices, and the people you're with or the job that you're in or the project that you're on is going in the right direction. How do you know? And I've experimented with this because I've checked in with myself as I do things, as I'm around people, and I've come up with the thought that when things are right, they move forward with very little glitch. I think that's probably a good way to put it, or very little glitches. When things are right, there's less glitches. When it feels right, there's less bad feelings about it. In fact, whenever bad feelings come up, something will happen to make you feel good about it. When one thing clicks after another, after another, after another, something's right. Something is going right. But if these bad feelings come up for you during the process, or if it feels like it's getting slower and you're trudging through more and more mud to make things happen for you, something is not in alignment. You're probably not on the right path. So it's good to check in and figure out where you are with something. I once told the story of a friend of mine who wanted to create a podcast course. I'm like, okay, we'll get together and we'll create this podcast course. I'm a professional podcaster now, and he knew how to podcast and set things up, and we could combine forces and create this product and sell it to the masses who want to create their own podcast. But something didn't feel right. And every time we talked, I got more and more nervous. And I know what you're thinking. Wow, just address the emotion in the moment. I didn't have that tool when I was doing this. I should have. But it's funny that I hear you say that, even though you may not have said that. But I did actually address the emotion in the moment and told my friend, you know, as we talk about this, I get more and more nervous. I just feel like this isn't the right path for me. I just get this feeling that I'm on the wrong path. And, you know, it turns out, and I said, you know, I'm going to have to back out. And he's like, what? You have to back out? And I'm like, yes, it doesn't feel right. I don't like it. Every time I think about doing this, I don't feel good. And that's not good. That's not going to give me passion for the project. That's just going to force me to do things that I don't want to do or don't have no desire to do. Why did that happen? Why was I feeling that way? Well, in hindsight, I can see that it was such a veering off course from what I was doing with the Overwhelmed Brain and, you know, providing a personal growth and development show for people to heal through a lot of their emotions and such. It was such a veering off course that who was I really serving then? I wasn't serving you. I wasn't serving you in the sense that putting all my time and energy and effort into providing you the most valuable show that I could possibly provide and give you everything I know about healing and growing through, you know, the challenges in life and the dysfunctions that we were exposed to as children and the dysfunctions that we have in our adult life and bring into all these situations. I just felt like it was not in alignment with that. So you'll know when something is not in alignment for you. You'll know because it won't feel right. Whether that's a job, a relationship, any type of circumstance where you just go, wow, this is not working for me. Every time I take a step forward in this direction, I have to take 2 steps back. Or I feel like I have to overcome my own objections to make this work. I mean, think about the relationships that you've had in your past, or even now, where you come up with objections to being in that relationship more than support for being in that relationship from yourself. Objecting yourself, going, oh, I wish that person didn't treat me this way. And every time they do, I feel worse and worse. And it gets worse every day. Or is it like, wow, this is just easy. It's always easy. It feels good. It's moving in the right direction without glitches. Yes, there's going to be glitches, but do you get right back on track? Which direction are you going? Does it feel like you're on track, going in the right direction, and every now and then there are bumps in the road and you have to deal with them? Or does it feel like that train of thought got derailed and now you're careening toward the village? Just some food for thought. I want you to succeed in everything you do, and I want it to feel good so that you can move forward with passion in what you're doing, or at least some enjoyment in what you're doing. And I know maybe there are things that you have to heal from or challenges that you need to get over, but that's why you keep tuning into this show and finding things that you can do to help yourself get through this stuff, finding people to help you through the challenges in your life and get to a better place in yourself. So with that, I want you to open your mind and step into your power and be firm in your decisions and actions so that you can create the life you want. Always take steps to grow and evolve. You are powerful beyond measure. And above all, and this is something I absolutely know to be true about you, you are amazing.